Good afternoon, everyone. Just to thank GRAPHISOFT for inviting us today to present UK. I have to say, when we were first invited, I didn't quite get the size of this conference. So I'm both very excited and slightly overwhelmed. But let's see what we can do. So Penoyre Prasad, we are. I'm just going to take you roughly through what I'm going to talk about, because what I want to do today is I would like to make this relevant to international audience. So some of the BIM stuff might be UK related, but I will try and explain that kind of concisely. So hopefully we can go through a good set of examples so that you can understand what I'm referring to. I'm going to use 3 projects as a case study. One which is already completed, and that was done in a kind of lonely BIM way, where we collaborated with other people, but we didn't have to go through kind of protocol of BIM level 2. One which is currently on site, so we're kind of doing a lot of collaboration with subcontractors, and it shows how we deliver projects as well. And then a third project which is actually just in the kind of design stage. So hopefully that will give you a kind of progress of us learning about BIM as well. And Penoyre Prasad are mostly doing public sector work, so that's kind of schools, hospitals, libraries, cultural centers and stuff like that. So not huge, not small. And that's me. I sit at the computer a lot and look at things and comment on things. And this is me on site, so I'm also very much involved on with projects day to day. So I'm not just a BIM person, I kind of get to deliver stuff as well. I just wanted to give you a bit of background. So don't expect too much technical detail from me, because I'm not so technical. We are about 40 people, 40 to 50, of which sort of 30 to 40 architects, depending on how busy we are. And a while ago, we started with, we're a Mac-based office, so we started with Vectorworks a long time ago, and loved that for a long time. And then we wanted to streamline our production and integrate the 3D and the information and the delivery all into one thing. And that was around the time when ARCHICAD got introduced to us, and we thought it was a brilliant tool. So we took it on. It was a lot of nervousness from the senior team in our office. So somewhere around 2009 to 2011, we sort of introduced ARCHICAD project by project. So gradually, kind of as we got a new project, we started it in ARCHICAD. And then by 2014-15, almost all of the projects were starting to be ARCHICAD, which is brilliant. And this is the picture now. A couple of lonely Revit projects. I'm not going to talk about those. But basically, we are fully ARCHICAD, and really enjoying being able to kind of maximize on our delivery as well. We are currently mostly in ARCHICAD 20. We were going to transfer to 21, but actually it is quite hard for an office of about 40 to 50 people to do that, because we run about 20 to 30 other softwares in the office. The kind of the financial softwares and the Word and all the kind of stuff that is invisible usually. So to go from one to another, it takes a bit of time. So we're going to wait for 22 and just go for it, and I think it's going to be fantastic. We also have all the other stuff, like Solibri and Rhino and a bit of ADB for the healthcare. So it is interesting, what is the office of the future? How many platforms are we going to have to be able to kind of run and maintain? And how many marriages we're going to get into? It's a bit of a marriage getting in with a company and then working with them and stuff. So I'm just interested to see, like in 10 years' time, is this number going to be bigger or smaller? It'd be interesting to see. So in the UK, the government said to us, by 2016, you all need to work in BIM level 2. BIM level 2 means you all collaborate in a very ordered way. You have a set of rules, and that's how you do it, and everyone names things properly, and everyone uploads things to a common data environment. And to be honest, that deadline has been and gone, and I would say that, yes, that's true for big projects, and it's true for big architects and big consultants. Not so easy for the little ones. So there is a bit of a kind of patchy introduction. Level 3 is to happen. So I don't think it's going to happen by 2020, which was the initial deadline. And today I would like to look at a couple of sort of diverse points, basically. I'd like to say that we are faster at doing stuff. We are faster, but we also investigate more. Architects are very good at customizing things and reinventing the wheel every time, yeah? So the faster we get, the more we start kind of doing things, differently and exploring. The industry out there, for example, we work a lot with contractors. They expect sort of more control of the design, more coordination, and much earlier. So in a way, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot a little bit as architects. We said to everyone, look, we can give you these amazing collaborative models, and they can be correct at stage 3. They're not. So, there is quite a lot still to do. The design develops all the way through the process. There is no such thing as a frozen model. It's only frozen for a moment, and then it has to develop to the next stage. BIM level 2, as I said, it's a bit of a buffet. It's not like everyone can do everything. And I would like to just take you through some benefits of working in ARCHICAD and learning about BIM through the projects. One last thing, you can't do anything without people. So no matter how good your BIM is, you still need your staff. So I'm calling that emotionally intelligent BIM, which is that you need to understand the training and the investment into your staff so that you can deliver BIM properly. No good to have just brilliant mechanical systems and electrical and a fantastic software. You really have to invest in people, and don't forget that. First case study is a university building in Kent. It was completed a year ago or 2 years ago, and it's a combination of maths and business schools for the college. It's in Kent, and it's at an extraordinarily difficult site. University wanted a new building. I don't know if this works. Here, where there is an ancient woodland. So we had to actually plan the building to minimize the demolition of ancient trees. We did a lot of modeling to minimize the kind of the effect on the woodland, but also to kind of place the building so that it opens directions and sort of connections with the main university. As you can imagine, this kind of took quite a long time to consult with both the planners and the client. So in a way, it wasn't like as soon as we showed them the first design, they just loved it. The other thing we did was that the client actually asked for 3 buildings, but we said to them, if you put it all in one, you will save area and you'll have future flexibility between the schools. The university really loved that, but the users hated it. So we had this really troublesome period after the competition where we won the competition on the basis of 1 building, but the users really weren't convinced. So we used endless cutaways like this of all the floors and many, many meetings with users to convince them that they can work together as 2 schools and that they can use the lecture theaters and the rooms together. And after a while, they accepted it, and we just had a post-occupancy analysis done, and they love it. So in a way, it's worth pushing things, but without having an ARCHICAD model and being able to quickly produce 3D outputs to show people how well the spaces are going to work, that would have been impossible. And here is the plan of work. This is Royal Institute of British Architects plan of work. You're meant to start in a very lovely linear way and develop things from concept all the way to handover. And in this case, I would say that sort of worked, but the model stayed the central thing of all communication and all production. So connecting to this morning presentation by Victor, the model does change, but it stays the central thing, for us at least. That's how we practice as architects. I don't know if there are other practices out there who don't do that. So we use the model to place things on site. We use it to test areas and stuff. We use it to, of course, visualize the curtain walling and stuff. but we then also use it at the end to try and work out the finishes and the graphics and all the things that make a beautiful building. And it's really the main communication tool to the client as well. We use the inspiration of the trees around the building to create this quite a complex curtain walling, curtain walling system. And this is, let's say 5 years ago we were working on this. The subcontractor was actually still working in 2D, so we ended up producing 3D models for ourselves of this, and then having to translate almost everything into a 2D workflow for the subcontractor. So that was a little bit not BIM. But we also produce quite a lot of lovely content like this for ourselves to understand whether the building works. And yes, quite a traditional way of communicating to the contractor on site and the subcontractors. Otherwise, we collaborated, we federated everything in ARCHICAD. We didn't use Solibri or anything. Everything worked perfectly. And we kept doing loads and loads of BIMX models and little fly-throughs just to show the client what's going on, because for them it was quite a complex building to understand. And also lots of little fly-throughs around to understand where the trees are and whether things are working. So again, brilliant, all from ARCHICAD. We didn't have to go to third-party software or anything. And yes, the building is completed, very happy client, and I will come back to its kind of relationship to the forest outside. But really lovely to be able to give a client, areas which are so connected to the landscape. Next case study is a project I worked on at the start to get it through and to get it through planning and make it work, because it was a really, really troublesome project. This is an all-through school, St. Mary Magdalene School. All-through school means it's like from 0 to 19, basically. It's like you drop your child off at nursery age and you pick them up at 19 years old, yeah? It's a new thing in London. And it's in this incredibly busy site at the Greenwich Peninsula. Behind the school, you can see, is all the very high-rise buildings that are being developed by Night Dragon, the Chinese developer. And in this case, I want to remind you of the work plan. And you see how RIBA imagines that we do? We draw a blob, and then we make a prettier blob, we measure area, and then, hey, presto, there is a building. And, from that on, it's easy. You just put some M&E in and it's done. Well, it's not like that. Maybe for M&E, but not for us. On this project, because it was part of a greater master plan, we didn't know where the streets are, we didn't know where the edges of the site were, and we didn't know where the infrastructure is. So we had very little to respond to. What we did was we continued designing each part of the building, so the halls and the classrooms, everything separately, and we kept moving the parts of the building way into stage like 3.5 or even nearly stage 4. So this last thing, which is how the school is, only really settled at about stage 4. By then we already had schedules, plan sections, elevation, the whole workflow. So it's very interesting to, again, we would have never been able to do this without ARCHICAD, and being able to automatically produce workflow. So really, really fantastic. And to introduce the Greenwich Peninsula, it's a very industrial area. So we were working with a lot of contamination in the ground. These are the future plans for the peninsula. You see, incredibly kind of busy and posh and big. But we are this modest little site down here. That's just a school, because we're a normal sort of local authority school. And this was the site. It was a complete wasteland until Night Dragon agreed where to put the streets and the infrastructure. And this was the site when we started, so a slightly kind of tumbleweed site. And yeah, we just kept using the model to cut through and arrange a really complex set of rooms on top of each other. It was a very, very deep plan building to fit as much on site. And I showed this to another client who wants a school at the moment somewhere out of London, and they were saying, what you got library on top of a dining room. That's crazy, but it's not crazy in London. This is what you have to do. And again, without a model, it would have been incredibly difficult to coordinate all the acoustics and ventilation and everything that needed to happen. So we produced a full construction model for this. Engineers produced a full structural model. M&E produced a full M&E model. Most of the packages were modeled. Even the FF&E and acoustic absorption were modeled so that we can kind of coordinate the internal areas. And even civils and landscape were modeled because we wanted to cut away the least possible earth because it was contaminated. So it had to be taken away and decontaminated and put into a landfill. So we spent months trying to work out how much earth we are cutting away. And that all worked reasonably well, mostly in ARCHICAD, some in Solibri, so, you know, kind of picking and choosing what we want to do until we had the main contractor join the team. And this is where our ability to kind of work in open BIM comes in, which is that they said to us, we want you not to use Solibri, we want you to use BIM glue. We didn't really know what BIM glue was, but it's a relatively simple third-party software. And we took it on, and everyone exported everything in IFC, and it was pretty live. Basically, you could just replace models during the meeting, like Link we're just talking about. And we were able to cut things during the meeting and mark up. And this really, really helped. I mean, it's a really crude software, but it's actually great that we can just communicate between ARCHICAD and this, you know, on a kind of daily basis. What this helped us with was that the value engineer, I don't know if you can see the pointer, but the value engineering made this steel structure drop down into the M&E zone. And we had, again, weeks of coordination to get the ceiling levels not to drop and stuff like that. And yeah, lots of M&E. This is what happens when you have a school which is mechanically ventilated and lots of structure. And this was my screen for a long time when I come in the morning and I open the model. And this is a zoom in, and I love this. I'm going to embroider this one day. I think it's like a kind of, it's like a lovely sort of macrame sort of design. And this is what happens to us when the subcontractor model arrived. The subcontractor was commissioned by the main contractor. They said to us, we're not doing drawings. We're just doing the model. We're going to deliver you the model. You're going to check it, and that's it. And we put the two models together, and we were like, well, how do we check this? You know, both are correct, they're just slightly different. So we actually had to, again, cut the models, you know, into sections and plans to be able to mark it up for the subcontractor. But we also did a lot of live marking up as well. So there's a lesson to learn there. How do we clash detect between two correct things? You usually imply that you're clash detecting between something that is cutting through something that is incorrect. But yeah, there you go. And a lot of sort of looking at structure like this, and then a lot of looking at structure on site. And yeah, it's kind of worked out. And the building is just about to be completed, so probably 3 or 4 months left. And that's it next to the dome, which most of you probably know. And the third case study is a building that we're working on at the moment. It's, I think, just starting stage 3. Which is like detailed design. It's a learning and teaching center for Brunel University in London. And again, we won this through a competition. The idea was to replace an older building and allow the building to help the quad, the existing very busy university quad, to kind of encourage people to come to the learning and teaching center. And we designed a building that is based on a living stair that's the center of the building with learning and teaching areas all the way around, taking you gradually up to the main lecture theater. Really lovely concept, quite an, you could say, easy rectilinear shape of the building, so, you know, not challenging in terms of form. And a good way of addressing the existing quad. At the competition level, we designed a model to enough detail that it kind of appears designed, if you know what I mean. Like people who don't know architecture or engineering would look at this and go, oh yeah, that's like a building, right? And you know, we even had quite resolved furniture plans. This is just competition stage. We even had something that appeared like a resolved structure. And we had a fantastic BIMX model which we demonstrated, and I have to say, it almost won us the project because the client absolutely loved it. So yes, and if you follow this logic, we would have then just proceeded with detailed design, but no. What happens is we won the project, we then stopped, and we just went right back to the drawing board, because then you have to resolve, sorry, I'm just skipping through slides so I don't take too much time. Basically, then you start thinking about real things like how much daylight is coming in. Are you going to hit the regulations in terms of, Partel, which is the environmental things, the kind of the insulation and everything, the overheating, the ventilation strategy and everything else. So what appeared as a design building wasn't really a design building, and we went back to the drawing board and did lots of sketching. We then also did lots of cutting and modeling, and we spent quite a lot of time developing the envelope to do two things, to kind of let enough light in and let enough views out, but to not produce a building that will completely overheat. And I have to say, at this point, by now, ARCHICAD is so great at rendering that we don't even have to go to another software. Basically, we just these are all just straight from ARCHICAD, and these are all just used, daily, basically, to communicate to ourselves and to the client. So we just did loads and loads of testing, yeah. And then also we did a lot of material investigation, trying to find the right material to make this elevation out of. Lots of hand drawing, lots of kind of phoning subcontractors and finding out how to do this, and combined with 3D modeling. So what I'm trying to say is, it's not just 3D modeling. Architects still do all sorts of different things to build things and to work out how to do it. We also been working with a daylight consultant who's been testing the amount of daylight coming into the areas and stuff, and that's also straight from ARCHICAD to their software and back to us. And here is the architectural model where we are at the moment, I think, just a few weeks ago. And we've got a kind of rudimentary M&E model trying to work out, because of this living stair, like where the M&E is going to go so that it doesn't cross through the middle of the building. We've got a kind of rudimentary structure model as well, although it keeps changing all the time. And yes, and then we come to the point which is about BIM level 2. So this is the government document that tells us how to do stuff. It's called PAS 1192. It sort of sets out all the rules of how we should behave in a BIM level 2 way. What it does is it brings with itself a whole suite of documents, yeah? A whole package of other documents. And some of you who are from UK will recognize this. So there are employees' information requirements document. There is an asset information requirement document. Then we respond to those. So those are the client documents. Then we respond to those with the BIM execution plan, which is our document, which is a sort of live document that tells all the consultants how to behave, where to put stuff, what not to do, that kind of stuff. And then there's a whole host of little standard methods of procedure. I'm not going to go into this, but what I'm trying to say is BIM level 2, apart from bringing a kind of streamlining of things, also brings a whole layer of kind of bureaucracy that has to be done by someone. We have to have a person on the team who knows the model, who knows the team, who also hopefully is a brilliant architect, but can also deal with, with bureaucracy. And that's not easy, so it's quite demanding on our staff. We have to produce lovely diagrams like this. This tell you how to how to validate things and how to upload them to common data environment. And then we have schedules and schedules and schedules that tell you to which level of detail, who is working when, to which level of detail, and how, who's going to check that. So this is the part of the architect's work, which is a kind of lead designer part, which again, I think is possibly invisible to people most of the time, because it's sort of, you know, everyone just switches off. And what I'm also finding is that we are producing increasingly more and more types of files that we issue. So a long time ago, this would be just a PDF and a DWG. This is our current folder. But now there is a BCF and a BIMX and a drawing and an IFC and a PDF and a PLN and, you know, whatever. And even the Solibri checking has to be completely regulated, so everything has to be named properly, logged when it was done, logged who it was done by, you know, and that kind of stuff. So I'd like to say it's a paperless office and it's a paperless project, but it ain't. And to finish on something a bit more nice, here is the living stair, and is a lovely sculptural element that we're designing. And I wanted to tell you about workflow and how we work with structural engineers. I think this thing of this morning about actually collaborating on a kind of parametric level, for us seems a little way away yet. This is us drawing the stair, and then what happens is that we draw, so that's our own, that's us trying to draw structure. And we tend to draw structure for a long time before our engineers are on par with us to give us their structure to put into the model. And this is to do with how we work. It's to do with fees and everything, but you know, we work all the time. Architects work like this, yeah, every day, and they develop and change things. Engineers want to work here, and then here, and you know, so what I'm trying to say is the day-to-day collaboration also depends on everyone else being paid enough to do that. So this is us just starting to import engineers' things in and to federate the model. And just to say, the other thing, the very last thing that we keep doing is that we carry the vision of the project. So no matter how much the project changes, we are the ones who go back to the idea and carry that idea through. So as the structure develops, as the M&E develops, as everything else develops, and the client sometimes changes, you know, everything changes, but we are the ones who try to carry the idea. So I'm hoping that we will be able to deliver something similar to our vision from the competition. And just to blow our trumpet a little bit, since you let me be on the stage here, this is the building at the start. I showed you we just won, not one, but 3 RIBA awards. And the man in the middle, Michael, has won the award for the best architect somehow. And look at here, he's wearing he's wearing a suit. This is for the RIBA. And look at here, for the GRAPHISOFT awards, he's wearing a T-shirt and trousers. I think that's just not acceptable. Anyway, so just a way to show off. And just to say another illustration of how we use the model. We use the model to produce a cookie cutter, and we made cookies for the client for the conference that we did with them. Thank you very much.